My name is Brandon Monroe, and I'm 39 years old. I'm a project manager at a tech firm in San Francisco, scraping by, keeping things steady for my daughter, Sophie. I didn't inherit my father's fortune, nor did I get my mother's charm. My sister, Nicole, on the other hand, has always had everything handed to her on a silver platter: the house, the luxury vacations, the respect of our family. She's perfect, or at least that's what everyone else thinks. But me? I've always felt like the outsider, the one who could never do enough, the one they'd tolerate only because I shared their blood. I've spent years bearing my disappointment in silence, accepting the crumbs they tossed me, until one day a call came that shattered everything I thought I knew about them, and I realized the people I trusted most had betrayed me in the worst possible way. It wasn't the necklace that broke me, it was what they did with it that changed everything. The phone rang at precisely 10:47 p.m. I didn't recognize the number, but the gut feeling I had was enough to send a chill through my spine. I let it ring twice before answering. "Brandon?" Nicole's voice cracked, the usual confidence gone, replaced by something softer, almost apologetic. I need to tell you something." Her words were slow, measured, as if she was trying to say what she didn't want to, but knew she had no choice. It wasn't the typical call I'd get from her. The last time we spoke was after Amelia's funeral. I'd been too busy to call her since, and I'm sure she felt the same about me. But tonight, something was different. "They sold her necklace, Brandon," Nicole whispered. I froze. My thoughts tangled, crashing into one another like a storm. "What do you mean?" The words felt foreign in my mouth. "The necklace, Amelia's gold necklace," she continued, her voice trembling. "We needed money for the vacation, the trip to the Bahamas. We sold it. I'm sorry, I didn't know who else to turn to." The words felt like a slap, a punch to the gut. That necklace wasn't just gold. It was the last thing I had left of Amelia, of us. I couldn't understand how they could betray me like this. How could Nicole, my own sister, sell something so precious? Something that had belonged to our mother, passed down through generations? "Why didn't you tell me first?" I choked, barely able to speak. "Why didn't you ask me?" I thought it would be okay," she said. "I didn't want to upset you. You've been so distant since everything happened. I didn't think it would matter." Everything happened. Amelia's death still hung in the air like a shadow neither of us could escape, but I had never once thought it would come to this. My sister selling Amelia's necklace behind my back, using it to fund a vacation I didn't even know about. "How much?" I demanded. $10,000, Nicole replied, her voice small now. It was worth more, but we didn't have much time. I ran my fingers over my jaw, trying to process the words. This wasn't just about money. This was betrayal. It was a final insult, a mark of how little I truly meant to them. The thought twisted my stomach, and I felt something cold and unnameable rise in my chest. "And what do you plan to do now?" I asked, though I knew the answer. The truth already stung, but I had to hear it. "I don't know, Brandon, but you should know that I didn't want this. I didn't want any of it." Her voice was almost pleading, but I wasn't sure anymore if I could believe her, if I ever could again. I hung up without another word. The silence after the call was deafening. My hands trembled as I set the phone down, feeling the weight of her words press down on me. That necklace was gone, my wife's last gift to me. Something that had tied me to her even after her death had vanished. And for what? To fund their luxury trip, their indulgence. I stood up, pacing the apartment, the walls closing in on me. My mind spun with questions, with anger, with disbelief. How had I missed this? How had I been so blind to the lies? But as I thought about it, a darker realization began to set in. This wasn't just about the necklace. This was about everything. The family I thought I knew, the family I had tried to hold together, wasn't what I thought it was. The betrayal went deeper than I could see, and now I had to figure out how far it went. I grabbed my jacket, heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't sit here. I couldn't let them get away with it. But there was something else I didn't know yet, something that would make this betrayal pale in comparison to what was coming. The phone rang again, but this time I didn't hesitate. I answered it before the first ring even finished. "Brandon, it's not over," a voice said, one I recognized but hadn't heard in years. It was Charlie, my brother-in-law. You need to listen carefully." My blood ran cold, and suddenly I realized everything I thought I knew about my wife's family had been a lie. The phone call with Charlie came moments after I hung up with Nicole. His voice was more urgent, clipped, like he was barely holding himself together. "Brandon, it's not over. You need to listen carefully." I stood there, my body rigid, heart hammering in my chest. "What do you mean? First, Nicole sells the necklace, and now you're telling me—" I stopped myself, not sure what else to say. My mind was spinning too fast, and it felt like everything I had known was crumbling in front of me. "Listen, it's bigger than you think. The necklace, that was just a distraction." Charlie's voice faltered slightly. "There's something else, something much worse." I could barely breathe. "What are you talking about, Charlie?" There was a long pause. Then, in a low voice, he said, "Marcus Hawk is involved." Marcus Hawk. The name felt like a punch to the gut. He was one of the most powerful figures in the city. An untouchable billionaire with fingers in every shady pie imaginable. He ran everything from real estate to illegal arms deals, and he was known for one thing: getting what he wanted, no matter the cost. "How is he involved?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Charlie sighed, a sound of defeat. "That necklace. It was just a key, Brandon. A key to something much bigger. I thought it was just about the money, but it's not. It's about power. Hawk. He wants something, and we're just the pawns in his game." I felt the floor shift beneath me. My thoughts tumbled, colliding with one another. "You're telling me this now, after everything? After what they did to Amelia's necklace? To me? Brandon, don't you dare try to justify this. You sold my wife's legacy." I cut him off, my anger sharp, raw. There was another pause before Charlie's voice softened. "I didn't have a choice, Brandon. None of us did. If I didn't play along, Suddenly I heard a noise at the door. I froze. A soft tap. Someone was outside. My instincts kicked in. I moved quickly, grabbing my jacket, trying to keep my breathing steady. "Charlie, I've got to go," I said, my voice low. "I'll deal with this. Don't call me again unless you're ready to tell me the full truth." I hung up and walked to the door. I pressed my ear against it, straining to hear. A shadow flickered under the crack. Slowly, I cracked the door open just enough to peek outside. Nothing. My heart still raced as I stepped into the hallway. The air was thick with a sense of danger, as if someone had been watching me. Every instinct told me to keep moving. Fast. But the adrenaline pumping through my veins told me something else. I couldn't just run. I had to confront this. I grabbed my phone, the screen still lit up with the missed call from Charlie. I needed to know more, needed to understand how deep this hole went. And then I heard it. A soft voice, faint but clear. "Brandon Monroe." I spun around, adrenaline flooding my system again. A man stood in the hallway. Tall, dressed in dark clothes, his face was partially obscured by a cap. But the one thing I could see clearly was the way he looked at me. Calculating, cold. "Who are you?" I demanded. "Don't ask questions you won't want the answers to," he said, his voice calm, almost too calm. He stepped closer, blocking the hallway. I backed up, heart pounding. "What do you want?" His eyes didn't leave mine. "Marcus sent me. He wants to make sure you understand the stakes here." My stomach dropped. The name Marcus hit me like a sledgehammer. I was being watched. They were already one step ahead. I couldn't let this go any further. "Get out of my way," I said, my voice cold, trying to stay in control. The man smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile, more like a predator's. He stepped aside, but his eyes never left mine. "Don't say I didn't warn you," he muttered before turning and walking away, disappearing into the shadows. I stood frozen for a moment, my mind reeling. The fear in my chest hadn't subsided. If anything, it had only grown. What was happening? Why was Marcus Hawk involved? Why was my family caught up in this mess? I rushed back to the apartment, locking the door behind me. I couldn't afford to let anyone in. Not now. Not after what I just heard. I dropped to the couch, my phone trembling in my hands. A million thoughts raced through my mind, but only one thing was clear. I needed answers. And the people I once trusted were no longer just family. They were part of something much darker. My fingers hovered over the phone screen, hesitating. I needed to reach out to someone, but I couldn't trust anyone anymore. Who could I turn to? The doorbell rang. My pulse spiked. No, 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 no. I stood, motionless for a moment, before I slowly moved to the door. I glanced through the peephole. It was Nicole. What the hell was she doing here? I opened the door a crack. Nicole, what are you doing? Her eyes were wide, panicked. Brandon, we need to talk. It's not what you think. You don't understand what's at stake. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it sure wasn't this. I felt the air shift like the walls were closing in on me. What do you mean? What's going on? I demanded. Her voice dropped to a whisper, fear in her eyes. They're coming for you, Brandon. All of us. They know what you're trying to do. And it's too late to stop it. Too late to stop it. The words hung in the air as if she'd just thrown a match into a room full of gasoline. And just like that, I knew there was no turning back. The game had changed, and I was already caught in the middle of it. The door clicked shut behind Nicole. Her eyes were wide with panic, her hands trembling as she clutched the strap of her purse. Her words hung in the air like a slow-burning fuse. "They're coming for you, Brandon," she said, her voice trembling. "All of us. They know what you're trying to do, and it's too late to stop it." I stood there, staring at her. My mind was still processing everything she had just said, but I could feel the walls closing in. I didn't need to hear more. The truth was already clearer than I wanted it to be. This family, my family, was never what I thought, and now I was tangled in something much bigger than any of us. I swallowed, trying to control the storm inside me. "What are you talking about? Who's coming for me?" Nicole glanced around the room, her voice lowering to a whisper. "You don't get it. You're in the middle of something much bigger than you ever realized. It's not just the necklace. It's Hawk. Marcus Hawk." The name hit me like a ton of bricks. Marcus Hawk, the billionaire, the untouchable. I had heard rumors about him, of course, deals in the shadows, things that never saw the light of day. But now, hearing Nicole's shaky voice, it all felt too real. "What are you involved in, Nicole?" I demanded. "You and Charlie, this isn't just about the necklace, is it?" She hesitated, then nodded. "No, it's not just about the necklace. It's about everything. We've been pawns in his game. The necklace was just the beginning." My breath caught in my throat. "What game?" Nicole's eyes flickered toward the door, as though expecting someone to burst in at any moment. She stepped closer to me, lowering her voice even further. "Brandon, I didn't want you to know. I wanted to protect you from this. But you're already in it. The necklace was the key. You have no idea what it unlocks." "Unlocks what?" I snapped, grabbing her arm. "Tell me, Nicole. I need to know." Her voice cracked. "It's a network, Brandon. Money, power, corruption. And now that you know, there's no going back. Hawk, he's involved in things that are far worse than any of us thought. He has people everywhere." I felt a cold wave of dread wash over me. I tried to steady my breathing, but my heart was pounding, adrenaline spiking through me. Nicole backed away, her eyes darting nervously toward the window. "They'll be watching. They'll know we've talked. You've already made yourself a target." I wanted to shout, to demand more answers, but I knew the truth now. I was trapped in this mess with no way out. I had no choice but to keep pushing forward. "Where is Charlie?" I asked, my voice cold. "What's he planning?" Nicole hesitated before speaking. "Charlie's gone. He's been working with Hawk. I don't know all the details, but I know he's involved in something dangerous. He's been trying to clean up the mess, but it's too late for him, too." "Is he dead?" I asked, my voice tight with fear. Nicole didn't answer, her silence telling me everything I needed to know. I pulled my jacket off the coat rack and turned toward the door. "I need to find him. I need answers, Nicole. If Charlie's involved, I need to know everything." "Brandon, don't," she whispered, stepping forward. "You don't know what you're getting into. They'll come after you, too." I shook my head. "I don't care anymore. I'm not walking away from this. Not now." Nicole's face softened with regret, but she didn't stop me. She knew what I had to do. The moment I stepped into the night air, I felt the weight of everything crashing down on me. I couldn't run from this. I couldn't ignore it. Charlie was still out there, somewhere, and so was Marcus Hawk. I had no idea how deep this went, but I knew one thing for sure. If I didn't find Charlie, if I didn't confront this, it was only going to get worse. I jumped into my car and sped off into the night. The streetlights blurred past as my thoughts raced. How had everything gone so wrong? The farther I drove, the tighter my chest became. Every shadow seemed to watch me. Every turn felt like it might be the last one I made. I arrived at Charlie's last known address, an old run-down building on the edge of the city. It was quiet, too quiet. My fingers gripped the steering wheel as I parked. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, like I wasn't alone. I stepped out of the car, the cool night air biting at my skin. I moved cautiously toward the building, keeping to the shadows. There were no lights on inside, but I knew better than to think I was safe. I reached the door and tested the handle. It was unlocked. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint smell of something burning. The floor creaked under my weight as I moved deeper into the building. Then I heard it. A voice. "You shouldn't have come here, Brandon." I froze. The man stepped into the dim light. It wasn't Charlie. It was someone else. Someone I didn't recognize. He was tall, with a sharp jaw and cold, calculating eyes. "I know you," I said, my voice hoarse. "Who are you?" He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile someone gives just before they take everything from you. "My name's not important," he said, his voice low. "What's important is what happens next." Before I could react, he stepped forward and everything went black. The last thing I heard was his voice, growing fainter as I lost consciousness. "You've already made your choice, Brandon. Now you'll live with the consequences." I woke up to the smell of sweat and damp concrete. My head throbbed, a dull pulse behind my eyes. I blinked a few times, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The last thing I remembered was the figure in the hallway, the dark eyes, and then nothing. Now, I was in some kind of warehouse, an industrial space with exposed beams and dim, flickering lights. I groaned, pushing myself up from the cold concrete floor. My body ached, and my thoughts felt scrambled. I tried to stand, but my legs felt like jelly, and I stumbled, hitting the nearby metal wall. My hands were bound to a chair behind me, the ropes digging into my wrists. Panic flared up inside me, but I forced it down. The room was eerily quiet. My heart pounded in my chest, matching the heavy silence. Was this it? Was this how it ended? I refused to believe it. I wasn't going out like this, not without answers. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Heavy. Slow. The kind that didn't have to hurry because they owned the place. "Brandon," a voice said, smooth as silk. It sent a chill through me. I looked up to see a tall figure emerging from the shadows. His silhouette was hard to make out at first, but I recognized the voice. It was the man who'd spoken to me earlier, the one who'd told me I had already made my choice. "Marcus Hawk," I growled. "You're the one behind this." He smiled, a slow, predatory smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You were always smart, Brandon. I was hoping you'd figure it out." I tugged at the ropes, trying to free myself, but they were tight. Marcus took a step closer, his footsteps echoing in the silence. His presence filled the room, suffocating. Every breath I took seemed harder than the last. "You don't have to do this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Why the hell am I involved in all of this? I'm not part of your game." His eyes narrowed. "That's where you're wrong, my friend. You've been part of the game from the start. You just didn't know it." I struggled against the ropes again, this time with more force. "I don't know what you want, but I'm not just some pawn. I won't play your game." Marcus chuckled softly. "You think you have a choice? You don't, Brandon. You never did." His words hit me like a blow to the chest. This wasn't just about the necklace anymore. It was about something much bigger, something dangerous. The realization crept over me like a cold sweat. I had underestimated the depth of the game, and now it was too late to back out. A sharp sound broke the tension. The door to the warehouse creaked open, and another figure stepped inside. I couldn't see the face at first, but I recognized the tall silhouette, Nicole. Her movements were stiff, almost hesitant. She walked toward Marcus, her eyes avoiding mine. "Marcus, we can't keep him here," she said, her voice shaking. "If he knows everything." "He knows enough," Marcus interrupted smoothly. "He's already involved. He has to understand what's at stake. You know the rules, Nicole." Nicole's gaze flickered to me, guilt flashing in her eyes. "I didn't want this, Brandon, but we're in too deep now." I felt the walls closing in on me. Betrayal. Again. "How long?" I spat. "How long have you been lying to me, Nicole?" She bit her lips, struggling with her words. "Since the beginning," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Since before Amelia passed, we were all part of it." I didn't want to be, but I couldn't back out once we were in. You have no idea what's been happening behind the scenes. I shook my head, the weight of her words crushing me. You sold the necklace, but that wasn't enough, was it? You're all part of some larger scheme, using me to cover your tracks. Marcus stepped closer, his shadow looming over me. Your sister's right. This isn't just about money or a necklace. It's about control, power. You've been a tool in this game all along, whether you knew it or not. I felt my stomach turn. Power? Control? What kind of people were they, pulling me into this dark world of corruption and crime? Nicole took a deep breath, glancing at Marcus before meeting my eyes. We didn't want you involved, but you had to know the truth. And now, you're too deep. You can't walk away. The truth. The truth they'd been hiding for so long. I had no idea how deep the rabbit hole went, but I was starting to get a sense of the darkness I was swimming in. You don't get it, I said, struggling against the ropes again. You think you can control me, but you're wrong. I'm not like you. Nicole looked at Marcus, then back at me. You can't change this, Brandon. You're already marked. Whether you like it or not, they know you. And you'll do what they say, or you'll disappear. Marcus's voice was cold, final. I always get what I want, Brandon. You've already made your choice, whether you admit it or not. A chill ran down my spine. The walls, the air, everything around me seemed to be closing in, but something inside me refused to break. I'd come too far to back down now. Nicole turned, her eyes filled with regret, but she didn't stop Marcus from pushing me further into the abyss. I had no idea what was coming next, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just about me anymore. They had underestimated me, and I was going to find a way to turn the tables. But first, I needed to get out of here, and I needed to find Charlie before it was too late. The door slammed shut behind them. The sound of footsteps faded into the distance. I was alone, but not for long. I had a plan, and Marcus was going to regret underestimating me. I couldn't breathe. The dim light in the warehouse flickered above me, casting long shadows against the metal walls. The air smelled stale, thick with tension. I was alone, bound, but somehow it felt worse than being in chains. My mind raced faster than my heart. Nicole's confession echoed in my head, every word sinking deeper into me. We were all part of it. You're too deep now. You can't get out. I had been foolish to think I could walk away unscathed. I should have never trusted anyone. The man in the shadows, the ones pulling the strings, they were everywhere, in my family, in my life. And now I was caught in a web I didn't even understand fully. How had I gotten here? I was sitting in a chair, still bound by rough ropes, my wrists aching. The sound of footsteps broke through the haze of my thoughts. My head jerked up, eyes wide. A man in a black suit stepped into view. He looked familiar but out of place, as though he didn't belong in this grimy, abandoned space. His sharp gaze locked onto mine, and something cold flickered in his eyes. "Brandon Monroe," he said, his voice clipped and smooth. "I've been waiting for this moment." "Who the hell are you?" I growled, trying to sound defiant, but the fear gnawing at my insides made my voice shake. "Does it matter?" he replied. "What matters is who's behind this, and who's going to clean up the mess you've made." I stared at him, my breath coming in shallow gasps. The man's presence was suffocating, a reminder that I was no longer in control of my own fate. "You've been tangled up in things far beyond you, Mr. Monroe," he continued, stepping closer, his polished shoes clicking against the concrete floor. "And I've been sent to ensure that this ends quietly." My heart pounded. "Sent by who?" The man smiled, but it wasn't friendly. It was the kind of smile someone gives when they know something you don't. "By the people who hold the cards, the ones who own the game. Marcus Hawk, of course. You didn't think it was just about the necklace, did you?" My stomach dropped. Marcus Hawk. The name felt like ice in my veins. I had thought I understood the situation, but it was slipping away from me, like sand through my fingers. This wasn't just about money or a necklace. It was about power, and I had no idea how deep this went. The man reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small black envelope. He tossed it onto the table in front of me, the sound of it landing too loud in the silence. I stared at it. It was sealed, no name or address, just a dark red wax seal. "What's this?" I demanded, my throat dry. "Your next move," the man said. "Open it. You're about to learn just how far you've gone down the rabbit hole." I hesitated, my mind racing, but with a shaking hand I ripped the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, the words scrawled across it in dark ink. "The necklace isn't the key. You are." My blood ran cold. What did this mean? I looked up, but the man was gone. There was no sound, no trace of his presence except for the paper and the heavy weight of what it meant. "You are." The words echoed in my mind, but they made no sense. The necklace had been sold. I was tangled in this mess because of it. Yet here was a message that hinted at something far more sinister. I wasn't just a pawn. I was the center of all of it. A door creaked open and I spun around. Nicole stepped into the room, her face pale and drawn, her eyes frantic. "Brandon," she whispered, taking a step toward me, her hands trembling. "I had to come. I had to warn you." "Warn me about what?" I demanded, my voice hoarse. "What the hell is going on, Nicole? What aren't you telling me?" She glanced over her shoulder as though someone might be listening. Her voice was barely audible when she spoke. "It's not just Hawk. There are others. People who've been pulling the strings from the start. People who want you. You're the leverage." I shook my head. "Leverage for what? What could I possibly have that they want?" Nicole's lips quivered as she struggled to find the words. "You're more valuable than you think, Brandon. More than anyone realized." I stared at her, my mind racing to catch up with the chaos of the last few hours. "This whole time, you've been working with them, selling Amelia's necklace, selling me out. Why, Nicole, why?" Her eyes filled with guilt, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of regret. "I never wanted this, but they don't give you a choice. They've threatened Sophie. And when you're that deep in debt, Brandon, there's no way out. You never really have a choice." My throat tightened. "Sophie, you put my daughter in danger? For this?" "I didn't mean to," she started, but I cut her off. "Enough," I snapped. "You should have told me. You should have trusted me. But now we're both stuck in this mess, and I have no idea how to fix it." She lowered her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "I never meant for it to get this far. I thought we could just sell the necklace, make the deal, and be done with it. But then they kept coming, and it never stopped. I couldn't get out. I couldn't breathe." The weight of her words sank in, crushing me. Nicole wasn't just a victim in all of this. She was complicit, and now I was stuck with a choice I didn't want to make. Just then, the door slammed open. A figure stepped into the room, a man in a black suit holding a gun. I didn't need to see his face to know what was coming next. "Get up," he growled. "You're coming with us." I didn't have time to react. The man stepped forward, grabbing my arm roughly, pulling me out of the chair. Nicole backed away, her face pale, the guilt written all over her. "Brandon, I'm so sorry." The man shoved me toward the door, the barrel of his gun pressing against my back. "You're too deep," he whispered. "And now you're going to finish what you started." I stumbled forward, heart racing, and for the first time, I didn't know how I was going to get out of this. The cold, unforgiving light of the warehouse flickered above me as I stood, battered and bloodied, facing Marcus Hawk. The gun pressed against my chest, cold and unyielding, a constant reminder of how far I had fallen into this nightmare. Every breath I took felt heavier, and the silence in the room was deafening. The truth, the horrifying truth, had finally clicked. Nicole, my own sister, had betrayed me, just like everyone else I thought I could trust. I had been part of a game from the very beginning, and I hadn't even realized it. This was bigger than me. It was bigger than Amelia's necklace or the money. It was about power, control, and manipulation on a scale I couldn't even comprehend. But now, with the gun pressing into my ribs, all that mattered was survival. I had to find a way out. "You think this is over?" Marcus's voice cut through the tension, low and mocking. "This was always the plan, Brandon. You just didn't realize you were playing your part." My heart hammered in my chest, but I stood tall, my voice steady despite the fear. "You may control everything, Marcus, but you don't control me." His eyes narrowed, that cold smile never wavering. "You think you can just walk away from this? There's no escaping now." I didn't know how much longer I could keep this up. I knew he was right. He controlled everything, my family, my life. Everything I had worked for had been a lie. manipulated by people I trusted. The dark truth of it all was suffocating, but somehow I knew I had to find a way to escape it. For Sophie, for Amelia, I stepped back slowly, feeling the weight of the gun at my chest. "I'm not scared of you, Marcus. I've had enough." He laughed, a sharp, venomous sound. "You should be. You're already in too deep. There's no escape from this." I made my move. The gunshot came before I even realized it. My hand grabbed the metal rod beside me, swinging it at Marcus's arm, knocking the weapon out of his grip. He staggered back, cursing, but I didn't wait for him to recover. Adrenaline surged through me as I tackled him to the ground. The impact knocked the wind out of me, but I didn't stop. I had no choice. I grabbed the gun, my hands shaking, and aimed it at him. "Get up," I said, my voice hoarse. "I'm done." Marcus raised his hands in mock surrender. "You think you've won? You think this changes anything?" I stood over him, breathing heavily, the gun still aimed at his chest. The tension in the room was palpable, thick with the weight of everything I had fought for, everything I had lost. "You've lost, Marcus," I said, my voice firm. "You and your empire of lies. It ends here." But as I stood there, with the gun in my hand, something inside me shifted. The man at my feet wasn't the one in control anymore. I was. The power wasn't his to wield. The game was over. I lowered the gun. My hands were trembling, but I couldn't bring myself to pull the trigger. Not anymore. I was done with the violence, the lies, the manipulation. I wasn't going to let him destroy me or anyone else. "Call it off," I said, my voice shaking with a new kind of anger. "All of it. No more games, no more lies." Marcus's smile faded, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in his eyes. "You don't understand," he said, his voice a whisper now. "It's already too late. You've crossed a line you can't uncross." I stood there, my heart still racing, the gun now a symbol of the power I had taken back. "Then I guess it's over." The sound of sirens grew louder, echoing through the night. I heard the distant wail of police cars closing in. I didn't know what was going to happen next, but I wasn't going to let Marcus win. Not like this. The door to the warehouse burst open and officers flooded in, their guns drawn. They grabbed Marcus, pulling him to his feet, his earlier bravado completely gone. They cuffed him, reading him his rights as he spat curses under his breath. I didn't move. I didn't need to. The weight of everything was starting to lift, just a little bit. I had survived, but there was still a long road ahead of me. My family was shattered. Trust, once broken, couldn't be repaired. Nicole, she was part of this too, and I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. But Sophie was the one thing that mattered. I couldn't lose her, not after everything. The officer turned to me, his expression unreadable. "Are you all right, sir?" I nodded, but I didn't know the answer. I wasn't sure anything would ever be all right again. I stepped outside into the cold night, the chaos of the warehouse fading behind me. The city lights blurred in front of me, a hazy reminder of what had been. Life doesn't wait for you to catch up. It keeps moving, regardless of what's been lost. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't even know where to start. But I knew one thing for sure. I would protect Sophie. I would fight for her. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. The future was mine to shape. I could escape the past. I had to. For Sophie. For Amelia. As I walked into the night, I let the city swallow me whole, the sound of the sirens fading into the distance, a symbol of everything I was leaving behind. But with it came a new beginning.